Hello everyone, welcome to GNU according to CD, that is Government of National Unity. So guys, I have a disclaimer, all right? The disclaimer is I don't know, I'm just speculating. And secondly, these are just my suspicions and I come in peace. So these are my disclaimers. Now, what am I talking about? I am talking about the elephant in the room that you guys have been asking me about. Like, what is that thing right there in the corner? And I keep saying, it's an elephant in the room. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Gayton Mckenzie, the Minister of Sports, Culture, and all that stuff in that portfolio. And we all know that Gayton Mckenzie won a lot of hearts, South African hearts with Abahambe. And he did that into his appointment as the Minister of Sports. And then he kind of pushed that narrative for a while, up until I think probably 3 weeks ago or so, when he just dropped everything. He went silent. I mean, radio silent. Next time we hear of him, he is standing on a global stage, basically thanking everybody for participating in the liberation of Black South Africans from the grips of apartheid. And he said some things, and I was like, when I watched that, I was like, this is not going to go down well with South Africans, especially right now. I mean, what he said was correct, but was it the right time? No, it was not. Now, I understand the speech, it has to correlate with the event of bringing our fallen heroes from different SADC countries to repatriate them to South Africa. And of course, in that speech, he needs to thank the countries that participated in the liberation of South Africa, even though most of the work was done by us, because we do have people, receipts, as I've said before, that we even commemorate on our public holidays throughout the year. So now I'm not laughing, and please, whatever you do, understand what I am saying. Don't take what I'm saying with emotions, because I myself, I don't know. I am just suspicious. I am speculating. And in my speculation, I'm also doing some educated calculations. And I could be wrong. I would probably have missed the mark altogether. But listen, and okay, before I get into Gayton Mckenzie, the problem that South Africa has accustomed itself when it comes to governance, as well as political parties that end up governing the country or end up going to parliament, because every political party that is sitting in parliament today, they came to us with their manifestos and said, vote for me. And now they are seated, just like the Patriotic Alliance, it is now seated in parliament. Why? Because of their manifestos or their message to South Africans. Hence, South Africans went out on the 29th of May 2024 and elected them. Now, the problem lies here. And then this is exactly what the Patriotic Alliance is also struggling with. And probably this is going to be an advice to Patriotic Alliance and all the other political parties like Action SA. Because if you remember very well, Action SA, when they first came out, they came guns blazing. I mean, talking about illegal foreigners, talking about hijacked buildings when Herman Mashaba was the mayor of Johannesburg, all that stuff. And then his party itself kind of like dropped in terms of putting South Africans first, in terms of deportation of illegal foreigners, etc., and so on. Now we had Gayton Mckenzie who picked up that baton, but he's also gone radio silence about it. And now South Africans are livid with Gayton Mckenzie. I've been, what do you call this, looking at X comments. I've been watching some videos of YouTubers. Everybody seems to now getting at Gayton Mckenzie for going radio silent on Abahambe. More than ever, Gayton Mckenzie is supposed to be with the people of South Africa as these raids are going. South Africans also want leadership out of him to hear, are these raids real? Are these deportations real? What are your thoughts about these raids and deportations and all of that stuff that is happening? But he is quiet. But instead, he got you know who creating videos saying, oh, Gayton Mckenzie has apologized to the illegal foreigners and he said they can stay. I mean, it's a lie, blatant lie. And it's to also confuse the narrative on the global stage that he had said that when he actually didn't. But, anyways, the world already knows that that particular country that made that lie. Everybody knows they are liars. They are liars. Okay, not all of them, because there are really, really, really good people that come from, particularly the green, white, and green. I know when I say things about the green, white, and green, I do like a sweeping statement, but I've always said from the beginning of this channel that they are good Nigerians. Whether we like that or not, there are good Nigerians that live in South Africa, and there are good Nigerians that live in Nigeria itself. It's just so unfortunate that they are getting painted with the same brush because some of them are quiet. They're saying nothing. If they do say something, they also climb on the bandwagon of manipulating intellectually South Africans about apartheid instead of saying, listen, we are the good ones, and we know in our country we got rotten apples, because it is the rotten apples somehow are able to go into the airport, board an aeroplane, and then go to other countries to destroy those countries, while the good ones are remaining inside of Nigeria. And I'm telling you, not so long ago, I mean, I do travel because of work. I don't know how many times I would follow a person from the green, white, and green, and then comes me. When they produce their passports, sometimes I'll be in front of them, sometimes I'll be behind them. Whenever I produce my passport, I go, no questions asked, no suspicions. But when sometimes I even said, whenever if I'm traveling with colleagues, I'm like, you see those Nigerian guys, they're going to be pulled over. And sometimes my colleagues are like, nah, come on, don't stereotype. I'm like, I'm telling you, they are going to be pulled over. 99.99% of the time, they do get pulled over. And then I look at my colleagues and I stretch out my hand because I betted with them. I want my 100 Rand. And I would make money out of my colleagues. Why? Because the bad ones are the ones that are painting this country black. And I'm talking not our skin color black. I'm talking the black color. But anyways, let's get back to Gayton Mckenzie. Gayton Mckenzie, this is my... Okay, yeah, as I was saying, the problem with South African politics, especially the people that... Let's talk about the GNU. You have how many political parties in the GNU? About 10 political parties in the GNU. And the problem is the people that are appointed leaders, or I mean ministers and deputy ministers in the GNU, they are political party leaders at their political parties. Now, with Gayton Mckenzie gone radio silent, the Patriotic Alliance itself has gone silent. Case in point, on the 23rd of September 2024, there was a march that took place in Pretoria, basically to drop another manifesto, a memorandum to the current president to say, listen, these are our demands, we want them bahambile, right? This was supposed to be the Patriotic Alliance's opportunity to bus in as many of its members and supporters and sympathizers to Pretoria. Action SA, it was a drop in the ocean, but themselves, they ought to have said, hey guys, there are 20 buses that we are going to contribute to people going to, their supporters and sympathizers and members going to Pretoria to support that march. But that did not happen. You know why that didn't happen? Because there is a failure in our South African political system where political parties that are in parliament to separate themselves, the state from the party. What do I mean, a state from the party? Gayton Mckenzie is a minister, a cabinet minister of our government, not yes, he is a member and leader of Patriotic Alliance, but when he is on our what do you call it, cabinet, he's not a member or a leader of Patriotic Alliance. He's not. He is a minister in government. Now, his deputy president is supposedly being the acting president while the president is absent doing government work, right, as a minister of sports. And therefore, if the people of South Africa are still looking up to the PA when it comes to Abahambe, Okenigunen is the one that's supposed to be leading the charge, continuing where Gayton Mckenzie has left off. Now, why did Gayton Mckenzie left off what this particular call for Abahambe? That's because, fellow South Africans, he's a minister in government. Now, South Africa is part and parcel of the global village, right? And in a global village, there is some kind of understanding amongst democracies and other countries. And I think that is called, or relationship, which is called diplomacy. Now, it's not looking good for South African government when the government, number one, it looks at global situations and say, no, as South Africa, we like to produce a solution rather than taking a side. Just like the story of the Middle East, the story of any, what do you call this, unrest that might take place on a global stage. South Africa always taken a human rights, humanity point of view, right? Now, here we have foreign nationals in South Africa, some of whom apparently, allegedly, from what they say, they come from war-torn countries and they have come to South Africa to seek refuge or some kind of sanctuary because of persecutions. Maybe they are targeted, blah, 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 blah. Now, it does not look good for a cabinet minister to separate himself from the rest of the cabinet by speaking a totally undiplomatic message of Abahambe. Because let's not forget, the sports ministry has relationships with all kinds of sporting bodies. I'm talking international bodies like your FIFAs, like your Olympics, like all the other sporting bodies that are out there. And as a minister who is now pointing and saying, so and so and so and so, go home, it's not going to look good for his department because, listen, we've already been misunderstood to begin with. That when we are saying in South Africa, we are being tortured, we are being terrorized, we are being destroyed by some of the visitors that are here in South Africa that were never invited, by the way. And then the same Western world, and I'm not saying that we should bow down to the Western world. I believe in the last United Nations General Council meeting, some of the countries were told where to get off. The United States was told where to get off by South Africa. Britain and France, you name them, they were told where to get off and to leave Africa alone. That, in fact, they said South Africa doesn't take orders from the United States. And Joe Biden heard that loud and clear. So I'm not saying that we are influenced by the West and therefore we should bow down to them. But the fact of the matter is, in the global village, there is diplomacy that needs to be exercised. Even though you may feel somewhat about some nations, you still have to keep that decorum of diplomacy when you are a minister who travels the world, who is going to attend sporting events, because we all know what sports power is. Sport has the power to unite. Sport has the power to heal. Sport has the power to open floodgates and opportunities for the athletes that are going to go out there. So now, why would Gayton Mckenzie, and I suspect that he was set down either by the minister, not the minister, Either he was set down by the president. If it was not set down by the president, maybe it was set down by advisors. And these advisors, they kind of painted a picture that if you, as a minister who is speaking a language that is not the policy of South African government, now you are basically making these countries to start asking questions of like, where exactly is South Africa when it comes to humanity? What is South Africa's point of view when it comes to unifying people? Yes, globalization and globalism is also a thing, and South Africa is being hit because of globalism, not of globalization. There's a very big difference there. And globalists or globalism, they tend to have a lot of money and influence and power to go to these sporting bodies and saying, let's sanction South Africa. South Africa will not be invited to AFCON games or All Africa games. It starts small and then it grows. And then in 2028, when it's the Olympic Games, will be barred from attending the Olympic Games and every other sports. Why? Because the globalists, with their influence and the power that they hold, they go and influence these political body. I mean, these sporting bodies. And Gayton Mckenzie, as a minister of sports, that will render him useless. Then what's the point of having a sporting department if he is unable to send out our athletes into the world and perform and bring us medals and raise the South African flag? So that is my suspicion. I'm not saying it is or what. I'm just thinking myself, if I had to be in government or maybe the president of the Republic of South Africa, what would I do when I have a minister that seems to sound like a runaway train? Yes, what he's raising, valid. What Gayton Mckenzie raised as his political campaign for parliament, valid, highly valid, because we are all saying the same thing, that abahambe, but it does not look good for the government. This position that Gayton Mckenzie holds about abahambe, he needs to table it in the government or cabinet lekgotla. Whenever that cabinet lekgotla is going to be held, put it as an item of agenda so that South Africa is heard. Now, why am I saying this? Look at Hungary and look at Poland, how they got rid of illegal immigrants out of their countries. They knew what they were putting themselves into, but at the end of the day, they were saying, we are protecting the sovereignty of our nation and the national security of our nation, as well as the traditions, the culture, and customs of our people. Because illegal foreigners come with their own traditions, customs, and practices, and some of them they want to impose them. Case in point, Germany and England. Right now, you have allegedly an Islamic community who are now trying to inject the Islamic laws into the British day-to-day life. Others are calling for Sharia laws. Others are saying no, Christianity is not a good thing. You have to be a Muslim. Allegedly, I'm not saying that is what, I don't know because I'm not in England. And so those are the things that we as South Africans are also facing. South Africa is actually facing a very difficult position where our so-called visitors, they are forcing, normalizing criminality. And if this goes unchecked, South Africans at some point will end up saying, well, kafana, and then also start committing crimes because it is normal. That's what these so-called, especially you know who, they are fighting tooth and nail to make sure that South Africa is lawless, it's chaotic, an anarchist country, because all the law, the rule of law, will be rendered useless. That is what the aim is. If you go to South America, some of South American countries, that's exactly what happened. Normalizing criminality. Why? Because gangsterism build relationships with the president, build relationships with key, what do you call this, key figures in government. And today, those countries are anarchists. Anarchists. And so when South Africans are pushing back by saying, no, 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 public policy is very important because it is what regulates and keep a country going forward, right? So now, Gayton Mckenzie needs to table this in the agenda of the cabinet lekgotla that's going to come so that the president or DIRCO, I still call it international relations. This DIRCO thing, it's too much of words in the mouth. International relations, I think the minister there is Ronald Lamula. Let him drive that message because that message is going to come from government, not coming from a single minister in government, because it makes things look bad on a global stage. Maybe the world hasn't asked questions yet, but if Gayton Mckenzie continued, sooner or later, South Africa was going to find itself blocked from sending delegates for sporting games. So those are the things that I am suspecting is the reason why Gayton Mckenzie went radio silent. Now, if you had to ask me, did he take the right decision? And my answer is yes, he took the right decision. However, this is when he's supposed to have passed the baton to the current leader of the Patriotic Alliance, which happens to be Kenny Kunen. Why? Because you are separating the party from the state. If the party is the one that's driving this agenda, there's no global leaders or globalists or globalization are going to say anything because it's a political party that is saying this inside of the country, and because citizens of any country have a right to protest about something that isn't right. So they won't come in and then start asking sporting bodies to sanction us one way or the other. But it's worse when it's coming from a government minister. So I believe for PR's sake, it is good that he went radio silent. But his political party shouldn't have gone silent. They should continue on Abahambe. Because South Africans, myself included, I don't know how many times I've said, wow, the Patriotic Alliance is actually, has stolen my heart. In the next elections, who knows? And now that all this has gone like dead, I've been concerned. I don't want to lie. I have been concerned. But I also thought about it. I was like, no, let's use our brains here. Let's use our brains. South Africa is part and parcel of the global village. We can't be fighting for okay, I heard that we're no longer not longer allowed. We are allowed. It's just that I don't want to get myself, especially this channel, into trouble with YouTube. But you know that country that we went to fight for at the International Criminal Court? Yeah, against the other country? Yeah. So we can't be doing that, but at the same time, a whole government minister is saying something that is inhumane. Because that's how they will say it. Already, the report is South Africa is xenophobic coming from the Western media. They coined this, that we are xenophobic. We are Afrophobic. Okay, the Afrophobic part comes from your clever blacks, your so-called Pan-Africanists. That's where that word comes from. But xenophobia was coined by the West. So can you imagine now them deliberately misunderstanding Gayton Mckenzie, especially with what we did in January with the country that starts with a P, for the country that starts with a P, but we took the country that starts with an I to court. We must not think that they are not planning things on us. We must not fool ourselves and think they're not thinking about how to punish us as a nation. So now if you have Gayton Mckenzie, they would use that as so-called evidence that South Africa is committing human rights violations. When South Africans are saying, no, we want our country back. We want to fix our country. We want to work out the unemployment rate that is sitting at 33.5%. 8.5 million South Africans are unemployed, or could be more. But then, how do you fix that when you're already having people waiting in the wings to take that solution that we are going to put on the table by overlooking what do you call this employers overlooking South Africans, because South Africans come with rights, constitutional rights, labor rights, etc., and so on. So that is my thoughts about Gayton Mckenzie. I don't think he's a flip flopper. I did see some people say he's a flip flopper. No, he needed to be diplomatic. And when you do diplomatic talks, you do sound sometimes like you're betraying your people. That, like what that speech that he did, it sounded like, oh wow, even Gayton Mckenzie has turned on us. And I'm thinking as well with Herman Mashaba. I mean, I think he's also part of the is it part of the GNU? I don't think so. But the what do you call this? Him also drawing back has to do with the party being seated in parliament. So those are my thoughts, guys. Is it? Those are my thoughts. Again, I come in peace. Please don't misconstrue what I am saying. It is something to ponder on, and also we, as the people, must not think that Gayton Mckenzie has stopped being patriotic. I don't think he stopped being patriotic. It's the job that he now holds that is now throwing in a new cloth of diplomacy. And he needs to toe that line, unfortunately, because South Africa is part of the global village. Those are my thoughts. Like I said, I know I've left out some few things that I wanted to say, but I think it's advisable for political parties that are in parliament to be able to distinguish between a party and the state. If you're in parliament, that's the state. You're in government. And then your political party on the outside, it needs to stand for the people. And it needs to serve the voters what they voted for. That's the job of a political party. The job of government is to implement policies that South Africans are waiting to be implemented in a form of service delivery. In part of service delivery, making sure that on a global stage, South Africa also looks good. Anyways, those are my thoughts. I don't know what you're thinking. Please do comment in the comment section below. I would also like to hear your thoughts. These are my speculations. What are your own? Anyways, enjoy your day. Bye.